All I can say is two things. Cherry never disappoints, and wow, this turned out to be a beautiful piece. It is a cherry burl. It's extremely high gloss, natural edge. It's probably one of the prettiest finishes I've had on a bowl. So please stay tuned. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. People ask me what's my favorite part about wood turning. And it may be this. So I have a beautiful piece of wood here. It's a cherry burl. You see it's got a nice weathered edge here on this side. My initial thought is turn that away and that'll be the bottom of the bowl. It is a cherry burl, so there'll be lots of nice stuff inside. I've got some bark inclusions. But here's the problem. If I make this the top, now I did not cut this. Not that I would have done anything differently, but the first cut was here. And there's also another cut coming this way. So sometimes when woodcutters cut it, not paying attention, chainsaw's dull, they cut one way for a while, it's not cutting well, they come back, they cut it a different way, whatever. For whatever reason, I've got a cut coming this way, I've got this cut off. So to make this the top, I'd miss, and this is round, this isn't going to miss way down here, and I think that's just going to be a little wonky. The other option is make this the bottom and slope that up. Now I'd have to make it fairly steep to get rid of this because it comes in almost to center. But I think that's what I'm going to do, make that the bottom, and if I have to even shorten the bottom up to there, well, unfortunately that's what I'll have to do. Which means this will be the top, which means it'll be a natural edge because it's going to come way down here. You've seen that before in my channel. It's going to be a bit saddle shaped. And this here textured surface will be untouched. I think that's the way I'm going to go. So I'll find center, get it mounted up, and then we'll go from there. Again, I said this is the part I like the most. It's also the part I hate because I could be wrong, and I go back and forth sometimes, but at this point, that's my decision. So the top here is on the left, and it's not in my chuck per se, it's on a steb center. If you're not familiar with that, that's a spring-loaded device that just pushes up against the piece, and that's what's causing it to spin around. The right-hand side is going to be the bottom, and that's where I'm going to form a tenon and start shaping the bottom of the bowl. You can see here again, because of the way this is cut, I'm going to have to get rid of quite a bit of this bottom before I can have the shape of the bottom of the bowl. I'm pretty out around, so I'm not able to go overly fast. I believe I was only turning at about 500 RPM at this point. This was a dry cherry burl, and it was very, very hard. You can see the shavings coming off. They're quite small. Yeah, it was just a hard piece to cut. I decided to actually, instead of turning a tenon, I just flattened the bottom out and I screwed it onto a faceplate. The reason I did that was because I knew I was going to remove a lot of the wood from the bottom anyways because of the saw cuts that we've been talking about. So it gave me lots of room to put a screw into the bottom. Normally, if I was going to use all of the bowl, I wouldn't put a screw on the bottom just because I would end up sacrificing some wood. But in this case, I was going to anyways. Now that it's on a faceplate and is starting to get round, I can start to speed it up, and I believe I was close to 1,000 RPM at this point. This is going to be out of balance forever because it's got this big lump on it here and nothing here. I'm almost, well, got a little ways to go yet, but I'm getting through that chainsaw mark. I resharpened, and yes, the tool is sharp. I normally like to leave my bowls as large of a diameter as I can, but again, because of the shape of this, I did end up reducing the diameter somewhat. All right, I'm almost out of it, but unfortunately, so I'm almost out of it here. A little bit more in the base and that'll get rid of it. Unfortunately, that's made the difference between it being 4 or 5 inch deep bowl down to a 2 or 3, and instead of being 14 inches in diameter, it's probably 8. But unfortunately, initial cuts sometimes can make a big difference. And that just happened to be in the wrong direction. Still gonna be a nice bowl. It's got a nice character. I mean, it is cherry. Can't go wrong with cherry. It is hard. Shavings aren't bad, but yeah, it's hard cutting. Hopefully you enjoy slow motion video as much as I do. I just find it very interesting to watch the shavings coming off here in slow motion. The other thing that I think it's real easy to see in this shot is how I ride the bevel on the tool. And that's important. When you're using the bowl gouge, you always want to ride that bevel. Push that right up against the wood. That's going to give you the most effective cut, smoothest, and the quickest. You can see the shavings coming off here in slow motion. They're not overly long, but they're not bad. Now the bowl is flipped around and I'm working on the inside. You can see here from this shot, I still have my tailstock engaged. I still have a lot of wood to remove from that center. So the piece is fairly heavy. Although I probably could have removed my tailstock because remember, I'm not dealing with a tenon here. I have it screwed in to a faceplate, so it's pretty darn secure. Still, I like to keep my tailstock engaged as long as possible. Now you can see I have that inside piece removed and I am pretty well to my final diameter. I will mention a little something. You see me here working that little tiny nib right in the very center. And for those that are wood turners, you know about that nib. That's probably one of the more difficult pieces to remove, and to remove in such a fashion that you don't have any scratches in that area. And part of the reason for that is in theory,
the very center of the bowl has no speed. It's actually not turning at all if you go to the very, very center. So it is a little bit harder to work that section. Now it's time to start sanding, and I'm alternating here. There are some spots out on the edges where it's non-continuous that I've got a little bit of, I'll say tear out. It's not really tear out, but what sometimes happens on this non-continuous edge, your tool will bounce, and as it bounces, it makes a little mark in the wood. So I alternate between sanding it with the lathe stopped and then turning the lathe on and running it as well. Let's talk a little bit about my sanding technique. I will sand with the lathe on, but I also stop it, and I'll take that same paper and I will hold that. Now here I'm just working the very, very bottom. But here you can see I use that paper and I go up and down with the grain to try and remove any circular sand marks.
Recently started going to a finer grit. I went to 3,000. That might sound like a lot. I usually went to 6. Keep in mind, subsequent grits, the higher ones, don't need to sand as long. The other is, rule of thumb, you can go up by 50%. So if you're at 600, you can go 50% higher, that'd be 900. I don't have 900, I go to 8. Then you could go to 1600, I don't have that, I go to 1,000. Then I go to 2, I know that's a bit of a jump. And then I go to 3. So it's only an additional 8,000, 2,000, and 3,000. So it's only an additional 4 grits. But it makes all the difference in the world. I don't know if you can see that there, but that is shining like glass. And there's not even any finish on it yet. That's just the bare wood. So we're going to go ahead and put a tung oil on this, and then we'll part it off.
I like to use a brush, especially on these natural edge pieces, because it allows me to get that tung oil down into that irregular surface and make sure that I've got good coverage there.
It won't take much oil because the wood has got such a high gloss on it. It's almost sealed over. So it's not going to absorb a lot of oil. But we will flood it. Wait 15 minutes or so and then wipe off any excess. I can use a cloth, but the reason I'm using a brush just because I wanted to get around that live edge on the outside, on the top. And I don't know technically it's a live edge. So I talked about this before on my channel. Live edge means there's bark on it. Natural edge means the bark has been removed and it's just a natural shape. So I guess technically this would be a natural edge because there was no bark on it in the first place. It was a burl, there was a scar over. So it had a scar, a patina on it, but there wasn't much bark. There's a bit, I think. If you look there, there's a bit there, but you really can't distinguish where the bark ends and just the patina picks up that natural weathered look. Again, it's not taking a lot of oil, but the oil is bringing out the shine. Look at the chatoyance in it. It's an amazing piece of wood. Can't go wrong with cherry. It's not a big bowl, probably about 8 inches, maybe 9. Very interesting shape, which I like. Just go around and make sure there's no dry spots anywhere. I don't see any. And then about 15 minutes, we'll wipe everything down.
So now the bowl is finished. I just need to remove it from the bottom of the faceplate. So for that I use my parting tool and I just go in and I cut the remaining material away.
It's getting small and I can't hold it because of the irregular shape. Normally I'd just pinch it between my fingers here and go all the way and catch it. But given the shape, that's not really an option. So we'll finish it up by hand.
This piece has exceeded all my expectations. It finished beautifully. It's got a very high gloss. You can see the rays in the wood. They're very prominent. Beautiful coloring. I like the natural edge. I like this fact that we dip down like this. It's really my style of a bowl. Here's those rays I was talking about. The figuring in this wood really turned out quite nice. Even though it's a little bit smaller than I hoped for, it really was a beautiful looking bowl. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. I hope you learned some new techniques. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think and provide any suggestions for anything you might have liked to have seen different. Again, thank you very much for watching.